Rain tapped softly against the windows of Claire's two-story house, the kind of quiet drizzle that made the world feel distant. Inside, warm light filled the kitchen, the air smelling faintly of cinnamon as she stirred her tea. It was the first Friday night in months she had to herself. No work calls. No late-night deadlines. Just silence, and she relished it. Claire had moved into this house 6 months ago, a fixer-upper on a quiet street. At 29, she loved the independence. No roommates, no shared walls. Just her dog Baxter, and the space to finally feel at home. But living alone also came with strange new habits. Double-checking locks before bed, leaving lights on in the hallway, and keeping her phone close, just in case. She told herself it was caution, not fear. Her tea was cooling when she heard it, a faint creak from upstairs. Baxter's ears perked. He stared at the ceiling, growling low. Claire froze, listening. The sound didn't come again. She shook her head, forcing a laugh. Old house, Bax. Pipes, remember? But the creak stayed with her. Later, she curled up on the couch with a blanket and a true crime podcast playing on her phone, a bad habit for someone living alone. The host was describing a break-in case when a soft tapping echoed from the back door. Her heart skipped. She muted the phone. Baxter barked, rushing to the door. Nothing. The yard was empty, still wet from the rain. Claire exhaled, telling herself it was a branch blown by the wind, though she knew there was no tree that close to the house. That night, she dreamed of footsteps pacing the hallway outside her bedroom. When she woke, her heart was racing, but the house was quiet. She went to make coffee and froze at the sight of the back door. It was unlocked. She knew she had locked it. Her first instinct was to blame herself. Maybe she was distracted last night. Maybe she thought she locked it but didn't. Still, she checked every room, every closet, every corner of the house. Nothing was out of place. No signs of forced entry. She shook it off, chalking it up to forgetfulness. Saturday afternoon, Claire's best friend Sam came over to help her put up shelves in the living room. "You look tired," Sam said, setting down a drill. "Didn't sleep well." "Weird dreams," Claire replied. "And I think I'm just being paranoid. I keep hearing things in the house. Last night the back door was unlocked, but—" Sam frowned. "Claire, that's not paranoia. That's a red flag." "It's fine," Claire said quickly, embarrassed. "I probably just forgot." "You don't forget. You're the most careful person I know." Claire forced a smile. "You sound like my mom." Sam gave her a look, but didn't press further. That night, Claire did what she always did. Locked the doors, checked the windows, left the hall light on. Around 2 a.m., Baxter started barking. Claire sat up in bed, her pulse hammering. She grabbed the baseball bat she kept under her bed and crept into the hallway. Baxter stood at the bottom of the stairs, barking at the front door. Claire's phone buzzed with a notification. Motion detected on her front porch camera. She unlocked her phone, her breath catching. The video showed a man standing at her door. He wasn't knocking. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, watching. The feed cut to black. Claire didn't sleep for the rest of the night. By morning, the man was gone. No footprints. No sign he'd ever been there. She sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug she couldn't bring herself to drink from. Her safe little house suddenly felt like a cage. And somewhere deep inside, she knew this wasn't over. Claire barely remembered driving to work Monday morning. Her head was foggy from lack of sleep, and every time she glanced in her rearview mirror, she half expected to see that man's face staring back at her. She replayed the porch camera footage in her head over and over. It lasted maybe 6 seconds. The man was tall, maybe 6 feet. Dark hoodie. Head tilted slightly, like he was studying the door. There was something almost casual about the way he stood, like he belonged there, and that terrified her more than if he'd tried to break in. By lunch, Claire had convinced herself to report it. The police officer at the station was polite but non-committal. "Standing on your porch isn't illegal," he said. "Could have been a delivery guy, wrong address. You didn't see his face." "No." And I don't get deliveries that late. He was just watching. The officer nodded sympathetically but slid the report across the counter like it was a formality. We'll keep it on file, he said. Claire left feeling more alone than before. That night she texted Sam. Claire, can you come stay over? Just for a night or two. Sam, bad dreams again? Claire, not dreams. There was a guy on my porch. Middle of the night. Sam called immediately. You're not staying there alone, Sam said. I'm coming over. Having Sam in the house made Claire feel better, until around 3 a.m., when Baxter woke them both with a furious growl. The sound came again. A creak. From upstairs. Sam sat up tense. What was that? Claire grabbed the bat from under her bed, heart pounding. They crept upstairs together, Baxter growling low. Nothing. Every room was empty. No windows open, no closets disturbed. But Claire's stomach turned as her eyes landed on the attic door. It was open. Just a crack, but she never left it open. Sam's face had gone pale. Do you ever go up there? Almost never, Claire whispered. Sam climbed the first 2 steps, peering into the dark opening above. Something shifted in the attic. Both of them froze. It was soft, almost inaudible, but unmistakable. A footstep. They called the police. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes, guns drawn, searching the entire house. The attic was empty. No intruder. No forced entry. But one officer pointed out something that made Claire's skin crawl. A thin blanket tucked behind a stack of boxes. An empty water bottle. A granola bar wrapper. Someone had been staying up there. Claire spent the next day on edge, jumpy at every sound. She had a locksmith rekey every lock on the house. She bought new security cameras, this time for the backyard and side windows too. But that night, when she sat down to review the footage from the new cameras, she saw something that made her stomach drop. At exactly 1:42 a.m., the side yard camera caught a figure slipping through the shadows. Not running. Walking. Calm, deliberate. The figure stopped, turned toward the camera, and smiled. Just a faint, unnerving curl of the lips, before disappearing out of frame. Claire didn't sleep. She sat on the couch with all the lights on, clutching the bat. Baxter curled at her feet. Every sound made her jump. The house seemed alive with tiny noises. The tick of the water heater, the wind in the vents, the faint hum of the refrigerator. But then she heard something new. A slow scrape. From inside the walls. The sound came from the living room first. Then the hallway. Then, horrifyingly, directly behind her bedroom wall. She pressed her ear to it, her chest heaving. The sound stopped. Then 3 slow, deliberate knock. 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 Claire stumbled back, dropping the bat. Baxter barked wildly at the wall. By dawn, Claire was trembling with exhaustion, but she didn't dare fall asleep. She called a contractor that morning to inspect the walls, convinced there had to be some logical explanation. Rats, pipes, anything. The contractor frowned as he examined the crawlspace and wall panels. No sign of animals, he said. But he pointed to something scratched faintly into the wood inside the crawlspace. Words. In sloppy, uneven handwriting. I see you. That night, Claire packed a bag and drove to Sam's apartment. I can't stay there, Claire said, her voice shaking. Someone is in my house. Not just the attic. Inside the walls. Sam looked at her like she was on the edge of breaking, and she was. Okay, Sam said gently. You're not going back there tonight. But as Claire lay awake on Sam's couch, staring at the ceiling, she realized something that made her blood run cold. The cameras had captured the man outside her house, but never leaving. Claire lasted 2 nights at Sam's apartment before her nerves pushed her to action. This is insane, she told Sam over breakfast. Whoever it is, they're still there. Just living in my house. Waiting. And I'm hiding here like a coward. Sam hesitated. Claire, I get it. But what are you going to do? March back there and demand they leave? Maybe I am. Sam shook her head. No. We call the cops. We make them search again. They already did, Sam. Twice. He's too smart. He hides before they get there. Claire's hands were trembling, but there was a clarity in her voice now. I'm not going to be afraid of my own house anymore. That evening, Claire drove back to the house. The front door key felt strange in her hand, like it didn't belong to her anymore. Inside, the air was stale, faintly musty, as though the house itself had been holding its breath. She walked through every room, Baxter at her side, her baseball bat in one hand. "Whoever you are," she said into the silence, "you need to get out. You don't live here." No answer. But she could feel it, that she wasn't alone. Claire decided to set a trap. She turned off every light in the house except for the small lamp in the hallway. Then she sat in the living room, phone recording in her hand, heart hammering. For an hour there was nothing but silence. Then came the first sound. A faint, slow shuffle, above her, in the attic. Claire stood, gripping the bat so tightly her knuckles ached. The sound moved. Down the attic stairs. Into the hallway. And then nothing. Claire's phone buzzed. A notification from the front door camera. Motion detected, front porch. Her breath caught. She switched to the live feed. The man was there. Standing motionless. But this time, he wasn't just watching the door. He was facing the camera. Smiling. And holding something. Claire's stomach dropped. It was her spare house key. The doorknob turned. Claire backed into the living room, forcing herself to stay quiet, to stay still. The door opened with a slow creak. The man stepped inside, moving with a calm, terrifying confidence, like someone walking into his home. His face was pale, gaunt, eyes sunken but alert. He didn't see her at first. He closed the door quietly behind him, set the key on the table. Then he turned his head. Their eyes met. For a single second neither of them moved. Then the man smiled wider. "You shouldn't have come back," he said softly. Claire swung the bat. He ducked fast, too fast, and grabbed the bat with both hands. They struggled, crashing into the coffee table. Baxter lunged, snarling, biting at the man's leg. "Get out!" Claire screamed, kicking him hard in the stomach. He staggered back, but didn't fall. Instead, he laughed. A low, rasping sound that made her blood run cold. "You think you can throw me out of my house?" They fought through the living room, knocking over lamps, picture frames shattering on the floor. Claire managed to wrench the bat free and swung again, connecting with his shoulder. He howled in pain but lunged at her, grabbing her by the throat and slamming her against the wall. Her vision blurred. Baxter bit him again, drawing blood this time, and the man released her with a curse. Claire gasped, stumbling toward the kitchen. She grabbed the nearest thing, a heavy cast-iron pan, and hurled it at him. It hit his temple with a sickening crack. He dropped to his knees. Claire didn't stop. She grabbed the bat again and swung until he collapsed, motionless, on the floor. Her chest heaved as she stared down at him, hands shaking so hard she almost dropped the bat. The house was silent except for Baxter's growl and Claire's ragged breathing. Slowly, she backed away, fumbling for her phone with blood-slick fingers and calling 911. When the police arrived, they found the man unconscious but alive. They handcuffed him, carried him out on a stretcher. One of the officers stayed with Claire, taking her statement. When he asked if she knew the man, she shook her head. But deep down, something twisted in her gut. She had seen those eyes before. Later, as the house emptied of police and paramedics, Claire sat on the couch, staring at the attic door. There were questions she hadn't asked, things she wasn't sure she wanted to know. How long had he been here? What had he done while she slept? What else was hidden in the walls? She almost didn't want to find out. But she knew she had to. With trembling hands, she climbed into the attic, flashlight beams sweeping across the dusty space. There was more than just a blanket and wrappers now. There were journals. Dozens of them. Each one filled with careful, obsessive handwriting. Her name. Her schedule. Notes about when she left the house. When she showered. When she slept. And scrawled across the last page of the most recent journal, in thick black marker. Tonight. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Claire stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the bloodstain where the intruder had fallen. The police had left hours ago, but she couldn't bring herself to leave. Every creak, every whisper of wind against the siding made her flinch. But she stayed. Because part of her needed to reclaim this house, or it would never feel like hers again. The next day, she called a cleaning service, had the attic emptied, and the crawlspaces inspected. What they found made her sick. Empty cans, bottles, more granola wrappers, a pile of clothes, and on one wall, written faintly in pencil, a list. Monday, watch. Tuesday, watch. Wednesday, watch. Thursday, watch plus wait. Friday, come out. Claire sat on the porch steps that night, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the quiet street. The neighbors came by, offering concerned words, but their voices felt distant. Sam stayed over, refusing to let Claire be alone again so soon. "You did the right thing," Sam said gently. "You stopped him. He can't hurt you anymore." Claire nodded, but she wasn't sure she believed it. Because when she closed her eyes, she saw him. Not just the man in the hoodie, but his smile. The casual way he'd turned the key. The way he had said, "My house." 3 days later, a detective came by with news. The man's name was Elliot Grayson. He was 34, a drifter with no known address, no job, no family willing to claim him. But the detective said something that froze Claire's blood. "He's been arrested before," he said, flipping through a thin file. 2 years ago. Same MO, broke into a woman's house, lived in her attic for weeks before she caught him. She moved states afterward. Claire swallowed hard. "What happened to her?" The detective paused. "She went missing last year." That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She wandered through the house, flashlight in hand, checking every lock twice. Her own reflection startled her in the dark windows, pale, hollow-eyed like a ghost. Baxter followed her silently, tail low, as if he too knew the house still wasn't safe. At 3:14 a.m., Claire heard it. A sound from the walls. She froze, flashlight beam trembling. It was faint, but unmistakable. Freight. Then 3 slow, deliberate knock. Knock, knock, knock. Claire's heart slammed in her chest. "No," she whispered. "You're gone. They took you." But the sound came again. And this time, a voice followed, muffled, too soft to be clear, but close enough that it vibrated through the plaster. Claire backed away until her shoulders hit the kitchen counter. Baxter growled, hackles raised. The knocking stopped. At dawn, she tore the paneling from the hallway wall with shaking hands. Nothing. No one. Just empty space. But on the inside of the plaster, in fresh black marker, someone had written, "I'm still here." Claire left the house that day. She didn't sell it. She didn't call the police again. She just packed a bag, loaded Baxter into the car, and drove until the house was nothing but a shape in the rearview mirror. Sam begged her to stay with her, but Claire shook her head. "I can't stay anywhere too long," she said quietly. "You don't understand. He's not gone. There's always another one. Someone's always watching." Weeks passed. Claire rented a small apartment in a different city. She installed cameras, reinforced the doors, kept lights on at night. And for a while it was quiet. She started to breathe again. Started to sleep. Until one night, at 2:17 a.m., her phone buzzed with a notification. Motion detected, front porch. She opened the feed with shaking hands. There was no one on the porch. But on the wall next to the door, scrawled in thick, wet black marker, were 3 words. "Found you again." Claire never came back after that night. Neighbors said the apartment stayed empty for months before someone new moved in. But sometimes the new tenants swore they heard knocking in the walls. 3 slow, deliberate knock. And a faint voice, just under their breath. Closing image and lesson. Some intrusions never end, because once someone has been inside your home, they've been inside you. And some people aren't just trespassers. They're patient. They wait. And they always find a way back.